Ngozi was tired. Her feet hurt from walking all morning. The hot Lagos sun burned her skin as she crossed the busy street. Cars honked, people shouted, and the air smelled of smoke and roasted corn. She had just left another bank, her third one this week. They all said the same thing. "We are sorry. We cannot give you a loan at this time." Her heart was heavy. She had only 1,000 Nigerian nairas left in her bag, and her food delivery business was slowly dying. As she walked toward the BRT bus stop near Marina, something strange caught her eye. An old woman stood near the edge of the road. Her wrapper was torn and dirty. Her blouse was too thin for the sun. Her feet were bare and cracked. She leaned against a wall, weak and shaking. Nobody looked at her. People walked past like she was invisible. Like she didn't exist. But then, she lifted her hand. Just a little. Just enough to catch Ngozi's attention. Her voice was soft, like dry paper. "My daughter, please, water, even if it's just water." Ngozi froze. She looked at the old woman. Their eyes met. The woman's eyes were tired, but full of something deeper. Not just pain. Something else. Something ancient. Ngozi thought of walking away. She was broke. She hadn't eaten either. That 1,000 Nigerian nairas was her last money. But her legs didn't move. Instead, she crossed the road and walked to a small kiosk. She bought a bottle of water, a small loaf of bread, and a sachet of milk. She used all her money. She came back, knelt beside the woman, and handed her the food. "Here, Mama." "Eat slowly," Ngozi said. The woman's hands shook as she took the bottle. She drank like it was gold. She took a bite of the bread and closed her eyes, as if remembering something far away. "Thank you," the woman whispered. "May you never be abandoned, like I was." Ngozi looked at her with soft eyes. "Where's your family?" The old woman didn't answer. She just looked away. They sat in silence for a while. Cars passed. People stared. But Ngozi didn't care. "What's your name, Mama?" "They used to call me Mama Kem." "Used to?" "Yes," she said, voice low. "Names disappear when people forget you." That night, Ngozi returned home to her small flat in Suralia. She had no dinner. No plan for tomorrow. But somehow, her heart felt full. She helped someone. Even if it was just for one day. The next morning, Ngozi's phone rang. The number was strange. She almost didn't pick. "Hello. Good morning. Is this Miss Ngozi Okafor?" "Yes. This is EcoChain Holdings. Our chairman would like to see you privately. It's urgent." Ngozi frowned. "EcoChain? The big tech company?" "Yes. You've been personally requested. Please come to our head office in Victoria Island before noon. Come alone." The call ended. Ngozi stared at the phone. Why would a billionaire company call a broke girl like her? She thought it might be a prank. But something inside her whispered, "Go." By 11:30 a.m., she stood in front of a tall glass building. The kind she had only seen in magazines. The guard checked her name and waved her in. "You're expected." She was guided to the top floor. The elevator didn't open. She stepped into a quiet room with soft lights and glass walls. Two tall men stood there. They were wearing suits that looked more expensive than a car. One had kind eyes. The other looked serious. The kind one stepped forward. "Miss Ngozi, thank you for yesterday. I'm sorry. You helped someone. A woman in need. No cameras. No followers. Just kindness." Ngozi's eyebrows raised. "She's our mother." Silence. Ngozi's mouth dropped open. Your mother? The man nodded. She's been testing people. Disguised in the street. Dressed in rags. To see if kindness still exists. Most people walk past her. Some insult her. You gave her everything. The second man stepped forward. His voice was calm but firm. We are not just here to say thank you. We want to change your life. He handed her a brown envelope. Inside, 25 million Nigerian nairas. Ngozi dropped the envelope. Her hands shook. We also want to invest in your food delivery business. Fully. Her legs felt weak. She had no words. The kind man smiled again. Our mother saw something in you. And now, so do we. We want to fully invest in your food business. We'll give you a team. An office. Anything you need. Ngozi felt tears rise in her eyes. But, why me? Because you gave bread and water without knowing you were serving a queen. In a flash, her mind went back to the street. The broken sandals. The cracked lips. The quiet eyes full of history. She had no idea she was helping a woman whose sons were rulers in glass towers. She wanted to be forgotten, the kind man said, so she could remember who still sees. Ngozi sat down. Her legs couldn't hold her anymore. I don't even have a bank account that can hold this money, she said, laughing and crying at the same time. The kind man chuckled. Don't worry. We'll help you open 10. They talked for hours about her dream, her idea for village to city food delivery, her wish to help young women like herself. The brothers listened closely. The cold one even smiled. When she left the building, the sun was still shining, but the whole world looked different. Ngozi walked like she was flying. Later that night, in her room, she stared at the envelope again. Not just because of the money, but because of the truth. Sometimes, the smallest kindness can open the biggest doors. And sometimes, the queen doesn't wear a crown. She wears dust and silence. Just to see who still has love in their eyes. One phone call changed her life. But what waited at the top of the sky tower wasn't just money, it was truth. Ngozi could barely sleep. Her body was on her tiny mattress, but her mind was still floating. 25 million Nigerian nairas. She kept checking the brown envelope to see if the money was still there. She even pinched herself once. This can't be real, she whispered. But it was. And so was the second part of the gift, a full investment in her small food business. A dream she had been chasing with pain and prayer. But the part she couldn't forget was the woman. That quiet, gentle woman in rags. She was their mother, Ngozi kept saying. A woman who could live in a mansion chose the street. A mother of 2 CEOs chose silence. But why? The next morning, her phone buzzed again. A message. You're invited to Sky Tower at 10 a.m. Dress smart. You're meeting her. Ngozi's heart raced. Ah. She knew exactly who they meant. Moment came. The woman she gave bread and water. By 9:45 a.m., Ngozi stood at the base of Sky Tower. It was the tallest building in Lagos. Its glass walls touched the clouds. She wore a plain gown and sandals. Her hair was tied in a neat bun. She held her handbag close, heart pounding. Inside the building, everyone wore suits and heels. People looked at her like she was in the wrong place. She wanted to run. But something told her to stay. The elevator door opened. A smart-looking woman smiled. You're Ngozi. Please come with me. The elevator was fast and quiet. Floor after floor flew past. 30. 40. 55. Finally, they stopped at floor 70. The door opened into a room made of glass and gold. The wind outside whistled gently, and the city looked like a tiny map far below. And in the middle of the room was her. Mom came. But she didn't look like the woman from the street. She wore a white lace dress with gold beads around her neck. Her hair was packed neatly, and her face glowed. But her eyes, those were the same. The same tired, wise, watching eyes. Ngozi slowly walked forward. "Mama," she whispered. Mama Nkem smiled. "Sit, my child." They sat across from each other at a long table. A tray of snacks and juice was between them, untouched. "You didn't know who I was when you gave me food?" Mama Nkem said softly. "No. I didn't," Ngozi replied. "And yet you gave all you had. That is what I was looking for." Ngozi looked down. "I didn't do it for reward. I just felt something. Like I had to." Mama Nkem nodded slowly. "I was once like you. A girl with big dreams and empty pockets. I built my life from the ground up. But when I became rich, I watched the world grow cold." She looked out the window. "People only smile at you when you have something. They only help when they think they'll gain. I needed to see if there were still people who could give without expecting." She looked back at Ngozi. "And I found one." Ngozi felt a tear fall down her cheek. She wiped it quickly. "But Mama, why do your sons let you walk the streets like that?" Mama Nkem smiled again. "They don't let me. They don't know until after I do it. I disappear quietly, dressed in rags, and go to see the real world. I come back with stories they need to hear. I am a queen, yes. But what is a queen who cannot touch her people?" There was a long silence. The wind whispered outside. Then Mama Nkem stood. She walked to a large shelf behind her and pulled out a slim red file. "This is your new life," she said. "It contains the documents for your food business, your first team of workers, an office space in Surale, and your official partnership with EcoChain Holdings." Ngozi couldn't believe it. "I don't know what to say." "Just promise me one thing," Mama Nkem said, stepping closer. "When you grow big, when the world claps for you, remember the ones no one claps for. Feed the next girl with 1,000 Nigerian Naira's dreams and empty pockets." Ngozi stood, shaking. She hugged Mama Nkem tightly. The woman held her like a daughter. "Thank you," Ngozi whispered. "No," Mama Nkem said with a small smile, "thank you for seeing me when no one else did." As Ngozi left Sky Tower that day, her heart was full. Not because of the money. Not because of the business. But because she had met a queen dressed in rags. And now she knew. Greatness often comes quietly, with dust on its feet, and truth hidden behind tired eyes. They were billionaires. She was their mother. But why did she walk the streets, alone? Ngozi couldn't stop thinking. The woman who wore rags. The woman she gave bread and water to. The woman who turned out to be the mother of two of the most powerful men in Nigeria. Mama Nkem. Now that Ngozi had met her properly, high up in the Sky Tower, everything felt different. She had a new business deal. A real office. A new future. But deep inside, one question still burned like fire. Why did her sons let her suffer like that? She had to know the truth. A week later, Ngozi was invited again, this time, to a quiet garden behind the EcoChain mansion. There were guards everywhere. The air smelled like flowers and new money. Ngozi walked slowly toward a shaded table. Mama Nkem sat under a tree, her white wrapper blowing gently in the wind. Two men stood nearby, her sons. Nkem Jr., the soft-spoken one. Ugochukwu, the colder, stronger-looking one. Ngozi greeted them all politely and sat. "You wanted to speak," Mama Nkem said calmly. Ngozi nodded. "Yes, Mama. If it's not rude, I need to ask, why do your sons allow you to go to the street like that? Dressed in rags. Alone. Hungry. Why? The two brothers looked at each other. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Mama Nkem said, "Let them answer." Nkem Jr. sat down, his voice gentle. "We didn't know. Not at first. Our mother is wise, but she is also stubborn. She doesn't ask permission. She just disappears." Ngozi blinked. "You mean, she sneaks out?" Ugochukwu finally spoke. His voice was deep. "She disappears without telling us. She changes clothes. Sometimes even wears makeup to look older or weaker. She leaves her phone behind. We've searched for her before. Posted photos. Hired people. But she always comes back on her own time." Ngozi looked at Mama Nkem. Her eyes were calm. "But, why, Mama?" Ngozi asked softly. The old woman looked up at the sky. "Because I need to feel again. When you have too much money, you stop seeing. You stop feeling. Everything becomes soft. But the street reminds you that you're still human." She turned to her sons. "And I needed to test the world my sons built." Tears filled Nkem Jr.'s eyes. "It breaks me every time. When I see the photos, see how people treat you. I hate it," Ugochukwu said. "I hate knowing you're out there, and we can't protect you." Mama Nkem reached out and held both their hands. "You gave me everything, houses, cars, gifts. But I needed something else. I needed to see if the world still had heart." She looked at Ngozi. "And it does." Ngozi felt a lump in her throat. She looked at the two men. Billionaires. Powerful. Feared. And yet, they looked like little boys now. Boys who wanted their mother to be safe. But couldn't control her soul. Mama Nkem stood slowly. Her voice was firm but warm. "Do not judge my sons. They didn't abandon me. I walked away, so I could walk into something bigger." She turned to her sons. "And you must understand. I am not only your mother. I am also a servant of truth." There was silence. A bird flew overhead. Then Ngozi asked the question she'd been holding inside. "Mama, when you were out there, what hurt you the most?" Mama Nkem looked into the distance. The looks. Not the hunger. Not the heat. Not the dust. But the way people looked at me like I was a ghost. Like I was less than them. People lose their soul when they forget how to see others. Ngozi nodded slowly. Now she understood. It wasn't just about money. It was about dignity. And how the world forgets people when they look poor. As the sun began to set, Mama Nkem placed her hand on Ngozi's shoulder. "You reminded me that kindness still exists. Now you must remind others." She turned to her sons. "And both of you, don't just build companies. Build people. Use your power to lift those who are unseen." The two brothers nodded deeply. Something changed in their eyes. Not just guilt. Purpose. That night, Ngozi sat in her room, staring at the stars through her window. She had gone from a struggling girl with Nigerian Naira 1000 to the voice of a queen. Not because she had money, but because she had heart. And in a world full of power, it is the heart that still rules.